All I've seen since even before the launch of early access for Starfield is people complaining. Left, right and centre, there is complaint after complaint. And even, I've rated the game highly, and even with that, I've had people coming to me, oh, how much they pay you? Are they paying you? No, it's a genuinely good game. And I want to say before we get into this one, if you are interested in Starfield, you want to pick it up, there's a link in the description that will take you through the CD keys. You can save yourself some money by picking up the game on that website, and at the same time, you'll also be supporting the channel. And yeah, let's get into this topic. It's quite a long one, and I'm going to say it's quite controversial. There's probably going to be some people that come at me in the comments, but it's all for discussion, it's my opinion, and let's get into it. The reason I think a lot of players hate the idea of Starfield or hate Starfield itself is either due to jealousy, jumping on a bandwagon, or just what we typically get nowadays, and that is gamers being spoiled. But not only that, I think the reviews have been stupid as well. And I want to talk to you guys about all of it in this video because I found an article, I'll leave it linked in the description. It's titled Bethesda Claps Back at Empty Starfield Planet Complaints. And it says, space has been conquered many times before in video games. When it comes to genre-defining outings, Bethesda is setting out its stall with Starfield. As the developer of Fallout and Elder Scrolls, Bethesda's already done some Goliaths, or they've got Goliaths under its belt. Despite it being early days, the reviews of Starfield have praised it as more than just a sci-fi reskin of Skyrim. Then again, critics have claimed it's exactly that. It's basically just an overhaul of other Bethesda titles. I can see similarities, but it's not just a straight-up overhaul. And one of their selling points was that they've got 1,000 planets in the game, and people have started saying, that's just basically a load of rubbish, it's pointless having all them planets because only 10% of them actually have life on them. So there's a tweet here that says, exploration is the biggest disappointment of Starfield. There's no space exploring, no piloting your ship from one planet to another, dead, empty planets. It's like if Skyrim just had several pre-established towns that you fast travel to from menus and you never rode a horse. And I mean, opinions are like arseholes. Everyone's got one and some of them stink. And it carries on to say that long before Starfield released, we were told that only about 10% of the 1,000 planets would have life on them. And then it carries on to say that still populating 100 planets is no small feat, which might explain why Starfield's been in the works for years and delayed several times, so Bethesda could ensure it was releasing a product as fleshed out as it could. Even though one rocky moon can look a little similar to another one, Bethesda's procedural generation, opting for a more difficult approach to No Man's Sky, means supporters are telling naysayers to cut the devs a little slack. Complaints about Starfield's empty planets are still rife, and now Bethesda is clapping back. And before we get into that, people are going mad at the developers saying they've created a bad game. Do you know, ever since I loaded up the Xbox, granted it's running at 30 FPS, but ever since I switched over from PC to Xbox, PC having lag and stuff was probably due to my hardware, but I jumped over to Xbox, I'm on 30 FPS, I played about 5 or 6 hours of the game, and I've not had a single problem. And this game's getting more fire, the developers are getting more fire from gamers than what Outriders did when you couldn't play that game for 4 days after it released and you paid for it because their servers didn't work. I think a lot of people hate this game because it's Bethesda. They've had dodgy games in the past, Fallout 76, Redfall, whether it's developed by actual Bethesda studios or whatever. They've had some dodgy releases in the past. They're a big company, so obviously they've got more light on them anyway. But it really, it's actually quite frustrating to see a good game getting shit on because players want their own way with everything and they're really spoiled when it comes to games. And yes, I'm not saying that I've never been spoiled when it comes to games and I've expected too much and stuff. I've done it loads in the past. But the fact that people can't see the good in Starfield is absolutely baffling. And the developers are under a lot of fire. And I can guarantee Bethesda are getting more shit for Starfield than what the dev team did behind Gollum. And when you get games that should be rated 1 or 2 out of 10, I guarantee Starfield is getting a load more shit. But carrying on, in an interview with the New York Times, Bethesda managing director Ashley Cheng reiterated not every planet is supposed to be Disney World. Cheng continued to say the point of the vastness of space is you should feel small. It should feel overwhelming. And it does. There's so many different systems and planets and stuff to explore. The game is huge. Honestly, if you have no interest in space exploration and stuff, you're not going to like this game. But if you've never played the game and you have at least the slightest bit of interest in this genre, you are going to love it. It might not be a perfect 10 out of 10, might not be even an 8 or a 9, but if you have an interest in this type of a game, I can't really see, and in my opinion obviously, but that's like every single review out there, I don't think you can realistically rate it under a 6 or a 7. There's so much to do, you're not level capped and you're locked out of skills and stuff. You might not be able to respec your skill points, but you can unlock every single one of them. It just depends on how much time you want to spend in the game, and when you're spending 50, 60, 70 quid up to £100 for big editions and stuff, you want the game to last a while. And yeah, it might feel as though it's like basically bloated and this artificial, they've just put it in there to keep players on the game longer. If you're enjoying the game, then what's the problem with playing it for even longer than you originally anticipated? It carries on to say everyone's concerned that empty planets are going to be boring, but when the astronauts went to the moon, there was nothing there. They certainly weren't bored. It's clear that the team isn't afraid to tackle these complaints head on in an attempt to defend the title, and rightfully so. They should be defending this game. And not only that, some of the empty planets is still about exploring. You can still go and explore them. They might be empty, but you never know what you're going to find. And Cheng was backed up by Bethesda boss Todd Howard. I mean, Todd and me don't really see eye to eye. Like, my opinion of Todd isn't the greatest, but Todd added, we could have made a game where there are 4 cities and 4 planets, but that wouldn't have the same feeling of being an explorer. Howard concluded that devs actively made some planets more barren so that you get some periods of loneliness. They want you to feel all these different emotions and feelings and stuff as you're playing through the game, and I think they've done a fantastic job with it. I rate the game a 9 out of 10. And that's purely because, like, I don't normally give games rating, but I'm giving this a 9 out of 10, and that's only because I haven't played too much of the game. If I was towards the end of the game or having completed the story or whatever, if the game continues the way it has done for the first 5 or 6 hours, I'm putting that up to a 10 out of 10. I absolutely love this game, and as I said, it's my own opinion. Everyone's got their own different opinions, everyone's entitled to them, and I'm not doing this to jump at people that are hating the game. You've got your own opinions, you're entitled, as I said. I just basically want to start discussions. I want to know why, and I want to try and help other people understand why people hate this game so much. Because this happens, like, a lot of times you'll see a really good game get rated badly, you'll see a really bad game get rated amazing. And then I think this is a different article, but it's tied on, it's just underneath, it says Starfield's caught in review drama. And this one, I want to talk about this a little bit more as well. It seems a little too common in modern gaming, outlets and players alike are caught in review score scandals. I don't typically use scores because, like, I could play 8-10 hours of a game, play it through once, and I could go, this game's an 8 out of 10, go back through, play it the second time and start experiencing bugs and stuff, and I'm like, well, if people experience this on their first playthrough, it's like a 4 or 5 out of 10. Like, basically, scores are a load of shit. And the reason I say that is because, like, one of the reasons I say that, IGN's been called out, rightfully called out, for giving Starfield an above average 7 out of 10, but the reason I'm saying they should not have given the game a 7 is, 1, a 7 out of 10 for IGN means they put it on par with games like FIFA fucking 20. But not only that, they've given it a 7 out of 10, and then they literally spammed like 6 videos within 2 hours of how to do this, how to do that, how to do this, how to do that. They are milking the absolute shit out of Starfield after giving it a 7 out of 10. And some critics have claimed the site has a bias against Microsoft and Xbox. I wouldn't put it past them if I'm completely honest. And elsewhere, Eurogamer had a public rant that it didn't receive a code early enough. See what I mean? Just like spoil. Not everyone deserves a code. And Eurogamer also implied that Bethesda has a real problem with the outlet. And then you just get into more and more drama, like more stupid stuff. And Starfield is yet to launch fully, but already it looks like it'll be one of the year's biggest games, and I mean, I totally agree. But we do have things like Spider-Man 2. There's been a couple of big games already, so it's definitely, like, I'm going to say it's one of the year's biggest games. But as well as like IGN and then Eurogamer kicking off, you've also got, I've seen some stupid reviews, and I'm going to call this one out. There's a YouTube channel called Worth a Buy, and I normally really like his reviews, Matt. He does really good reviews sometimes. But one of the things he complained about, and he claimed he's only played the game for about 18 hours, if I remember correctly. One of the things he complained about was the fact that there is so much to the skill tree that it feels as though stuff's locked behind a skill tree wall. Well, would you, like, for so many years gamers have had complaints that things are locked behind paywalls, so would you rather a fucking microtransaction paywall, or would you rather a locked wall where you can eventually spend time in the game without any extra cost and eventually unlock what you want? Because me personally, I would rather the skill tree take me 1,000 hours to unlock rather than having to pay $6.99 to unlock a season pass or whatever it may be. There's complaints about so many things within this game, and I think jealousy comes from PlayStation players because they can't get their hands on the game. I think a lot of gamers are being spoiled and given this low review scores just to jump on a bandwagon. Oh look, I've seen this person give it a 2 or 3 out of 10, I'm going to go and copy. Because it's so easy to be negative, like, compared to being positive, and I know this from a lot of experience. And I know how quickly you can fall down the rabbit hole and how hard it is to get out of it. So the moment you see something like, oh, someone's complained there's 1,000 planets in the game, but only 100 of them have life, you start getting that mentality, and it spirals out of control, and you're just finding every little thing to nitpick about. People are like, oh yeah, there's so many loading screens in the game. The majority of them take like 2 to 3 seconds. They're obviously going to be really frustrating if you're trying to play it on a hard drive that's tied into with a SATA cable into the back of a fucking potato. I think the complaints are literally just so that there is something to complain about, because I really do believe Starfield is a fantastic game. If I didn't have the job of creating content on YouTube, like if I didn't choose that to be my job, because I'm not complaining about it, if I didn't choose that to be my job and I had a load of spare time to sit there and play games I wanted to play, I probably would have put, I don't know, 50 hours into this game already, 50, 60 hours or something like that. And people are like, oh yeah, you can complete this game in less than 20 hours. Yeah, if you follow the main story and don't do anything else. And I've had a lot of success with getting cool gear. I've had a load of fun. I've done a single side mission that's taken me 45 minutes on its own. Sitting there sorting out your inventory can take up to like half an hour, depending how much stuff you've looted, how big your cargo capacity and stuff is, and on how long to beat. The median for main story on its own is about 17 hours. If you go through all playstyles, it's about 23 hours. If you do the main story and extras, it's 52. And if you're a completionist, you want to spend a load of time in this game, it's going to set you back about 190 hours. This is a big game with a lot to do. There's New Game Plus, there's no level cap, and you can unlock every skill point. There's a load of stuff to buy. This game is gigantic. So if you have any interest in the genre, in the game at all, I highly recommend picking it up and playing it. I would say before judging the game, at least try it. It's available on Game Pass. Obviously, if you've got PlayStation, you can't play. But if you haven't played and you're coming up with all these complaints and stuff, download the game or install it or whatever. Try the game, get experience with it, and then come up with your own opinion. Don't just go based off stuff you've heard. And on that note, we are going to leave the video there. If you enjoyed it, leaving a like is appreciated. If you wish to support me further as a creator, there are links in the description. Let me know your thoughts about the video in the comments. And if you want to watch more, you can click the video on screen. All support on the channel is greatly appreciated, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching.